All right, it's time for Yogi and the BeachMan. Hi, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the BeachMan.
We're two Michigan transplants now living in Southwest Florida.
In fact, we're cousins born in 1964, just a month apart.
I like to meditate.
And I like to play bass in a band.
I'm into chanting Om.
And I'm into throwing down some classic rock.
But together, we're on a mission
to promote people that are helping other people.
We want to make the world a better place.
One conversation at a time.
So sit back,
turn up the volume,
and get ready to laugh.
Because we like to have fun
while we spread the love.
Interviewing lovely people. Yes, we have fun.
Where are you guys based?
We're in Port Charlotte, Florida.
Where it's very cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freezing.
I went to high school in Florida in Vero Beach.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, we know where that's at on the east side.
Yeah.
Been
So
there before.
we're just north of Fort Myers, if you know, south of Sarasota.
Lovely.
It's pretty. And where are you?
I'm in England. I'm in Suffolk, near to Cambridge.
Oh.
How's life up in I've been following your politics a little bit. It's just crazy over there.
It's totally crazy.
It's
Seems like it's crazy everywhere.
I'll take an hour and talk about that.
I think my views are quite controversial, so
well, it depends on.
I try to avoid politics and a few other subjects that I try to not go there on.
Mine are controversial as well, and Jim and I are not on the same side. On some things we are, but some things we're not. So we avoid them also.
Yeah.
I hate to tell.
Generally.
Yeah, generally, I would say.
I think all politicians are snakes.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree.
Every dollar the government steals from me is theft.
Yeah.
I read a little bit about your bio. I'm looking forward to talking to you, especially with the changes that are going on over here too, and the difference in nutrition stuff. Is that that's your forte, right? Nutrition and eating well.
I've been a nutritionist for 20 years. I've moved more into connecting people back into the earth, a bit into the esoteric, following the seasons and the cycles and the moon, and connecting into ourselves more and listening to our body and like rekindling our intuition. But it's all come based on nutrition and that side of things. So
everything you just mentioned is right in our wheelhouse. So this should be good.
I call myself, I'm a nutritionist and a superfood alchemist.
I'm just digging on that whole term.
Superfood alchemist.
Yes, I like that. That'd be a great name for a band.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the whole thing of alchemy is incredible.
Welcome back to Yogi and the BeachMan. Today we are with Juliette Bryant. Juliette is a nutritionist and a superfood alchemist. Welcome to the show, Juliette.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Julia.
We're thrilled to have you. I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the BeachMan.
So nice to meet you.
It's interesting that you spent some time not too far from us on the east coast of Florida, but now you're coming to us from
England. Yeah, I'm here in sunny Suffolk. Well, it's not very sunny at the moment. I think you've probably got all the sunshine there in Florida.
Not today.
It is. I woke up this morning, was 47 degrees, which is unusual, but it's not really unusual, but it's unusual to have a cold stretch as long as we've had it in the last 4 to 6 weeks. It just hasn't been very warm.
I moved out there when I went to high school, so I was 11 when I moved out there. My mum was from New York and my dad's English, and so moved out there, and I remember everyone wearing winter coats in the winter, and I was like, this is like our summer.
Exactly.
I walked into Staples yesterday and I had like 5 layers on, long pants. I had my Merrell hiking boots on, and as I'm walking out, a guy's getting out of his car wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt.
Was he from New York?
He possibly.
Or Michigan.
I said, man, it's not a shorts day. And he goes, yeah, I think you're right, man. It's chilly.
So you're coming to us from England, and what kind of work are you doing out there?
So I'm a nutritionist, so I work with people to support their health and their well-being. I'm also an author, so I've just come out with my latest book, which is 7 Magical Mushrooms, which has been a really exciting project to work on.
Oh, that's very exciting. I love
Yeah.
mushrooms.
And I call myself a superfood alchemist because I've got a whole range of supplements that I make. And the way I create them is by bringing things together. So I can, may sound a little bit strange, but I hear the plants, the sound of them, because we're all
Mm-hmm.
vibrational. Everything is sound. That's what vibration is.
Yeah.
And so when I'm making any of my creations, I can actually hear the note, the resonance, the frequency that those plants are vibrating on. And so it's like when you bring things together, like if you're creating music, you know, and you've got the piano piece, and then you add in the violin, and then you add in maybe a trumpet, and you're like, there's a missing note in there, there's a missing sound, and then you add in the bass, and then you're like, I've got it. So that's how I create my supplements, through hearing the symphony, creating a symphony from plants.
Oh, I love that. We've been talking a lot about energy and vibration, and I keep mentioning, everything that's making a vibration is making a sound.
Yeah.
And, I always say that we're kind of lucky that we only hear a small audible range of sound, or otherwise it would drive us crazy. But the fact that you can tune into plants and hear the sounds, that's
Mm.
fascinating.
And as a bass player in a band, I don't bring this up a lot, but I'm really happy that you put that as the final piece and most important piece of the puzzle. I tell the other guys it doesn't happen without the bass player, so thank you.
Love it. I'm glad I pulled that one in. Yeah, I was sitting with so I do a lot of energetic work with plants now. So I trained as a classical nutritionist and have been doing that for a long time, but started to get more into this feeling of vibration, that everything is resonating. And so I grow lots of medicinal herbs that I use for my medicines, and I teach people how to grow. A big thing that I'm really passionate about is that we all have our own medicines growing. So regardless of what's going on in the world, we can make our own remedies, and no one can tell us we can't, and we can have that store of like, well, I've got these things that I can make. So I was thinking about, I just ran a year-long plant wisdom mentorship program where I guided people into the energetics of the plants and how to make remedies for themselves. And I was sat with mugwort, and I said mugwort's a beautiful plant that grows all around the world, and it was known as the grandmother. And witches used to put mugwort under their pillow and say that it would help them fly. It's mildly psychoactive, legal. And so I sat with mugwort and I said, let me hear your song. If everything's vibrating, if everything has sound, like, what's your song? And I literally just heard it, and I was blown away. And I kind of went, oh, did I just hear that? Am I, going crazy? No, I'm sane. It's all fine. And I heard it again. I thought, well, if I can hear mugwort, then I can hear everything. I just need to ask. And that's the key so often, is that asking.
I'm just kind of blown away.
Well,
that's good. Within 3 minutes, I've blown you away.
no,
Yeah.
I almost brought this up yesterday because we had a podcast last night with almost a tangential but similar topic. And I almost brought this up yesterday. And there's this actor, I can't remember his name, but the guy is brilliant. And he's basically he's a black guy, and he was on like Empire or something like that. Anyway, and I don't watch TV, so I don't follow pop culture at all. I just know him from that show. But then I heard a podcast, and it was almost like a TED Talk just with him, with the periodic table of the elements. And he was talking about each one and how the frequencies of these individual elements are there. And that's really kind of what we're talking about, because like Jim said, we have a small spectrum of what we can hear. Now, you can certainly train yourself. You can train your ear to hone in on certain things that you normally don't hear. Like most people listen to music, they don't pick at the pieces.
Yeah.
Some people can, and it takes practice. So maybe what you've kind of honed into is a bigger frequency span than the normal person.
And I think, I grew up in a very kind of normal family. And I was always, as a child, I could see ghosts and I could see energy, and I had a connection to things. And when I became a teenager, I was like, I don't want this. I don't want this. This is horrible. Stop. And it stopped. And I spent the rest of my life trying to get it back, because you think, oh my God, I had a gift, and I shut it down because it was too much. As you said, there's so much energy, matter, sound, frequency all around us, and our minds, our beings are programmed not to absorb it all, because it would be too much, and for a lot of people it would fry their circuits. And I think this is also part of the whole children that are coming in now, you know, there's lots of people who are on the spectrum. I think for some of those people, it's they have these extra sensory perceptions that are taking over more of their mind. And so they feel chaotic. They can't process it because they've got 1,000 channels coming in and their mind's overwhelmed by that.
Hmm. So what does a plant sound like?
So when I heard mugwort, it was very much like a song. It was a note. It was like someone playing the piano and playing a note, but within that note there was a fullness. It was almost like a chord. That's a better way to describe it than a single note. So there was this resonance and full sound, but it was just one sound coming from it.
Okay. And every mugwort emanates that same sound?
Slightly different, but similar. But it's a slightly different, like all of us, you know, we may be similar, but we're slightly different. So we all have slightly different frequencies. And so like oak trees, they all have they have a similar sound, but there's a different, it's like they've got the same resonance, but a slightly different frequency within that.
Okay. Got it. So if you go to like a botanical garden, is that like a symphony for you?
So what I've learnt to do with everything is I call it in when I want to hear it, and it's
Okay.
not there the rest of the time, because otherwise, as you said, things would be too noisy. So when I'm creating a remedy, then I will sit and I will tune in and I will ask that I hear the plants, and that's when I can hear them. So if I go and sit by a tree and I want to commune with that tree, then I'll say, "Can I hear your sound?" But it's not like I hear it all the time.
Is it possible that you're not actually hearing it audibly? You're just kind of feeling it vibrationally, and then it just
Probably.
kind of has some kind of auditory response?
I think that's probably what's happening. There is a kind of a knowing within my being, a resonance. It's resonating and it's resonating in me. Like if you get a tuning fork, you know, the tuning forks, if you bang them, sometimes you can't hear them, but you can almost feel the frequency of them. So it
Mhm.
is this frequency that you're connecting to. So yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily audibly hearing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting now with science too. They're starting to, whoa, bumped our table, sent everything rocking. Science is starting to show that plants are communicating um, in the forest or in nature through the mycelium.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it to me it's fascinating because it's like this whole communication channel, and I wonder like how fast do plants communicate? Can they send messages that are beyond like, oh, I need more water over here, or I need more nutrients over here. Okay, we're going to share some of this, in this symbiotic relationship in a forest per se.
It,
But
Well, I've heard about that same topic, and I think it's more of just a very primitive type thing. I don't think they're gonna,
we don't know. I mean, we make assumptions all the time that things are primitive or things are, like caveman, and then later on we find out like, oh my gosh, there was truth to that. There was more to that than we
well,
realized.
there may be more, but it still would be. I mean, it's kind of accepted that it would be some kind of primitive type thing, like when bees go out and find a patch of flowers, they just come back to the hive. They put out their signal, or their pheromones, and they say, okay, go to the northeast 2.5 miles, and I think there's some truth to what you're saying, but I don't think it's, hey, I need some water over here.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, I've been studying the mycelium network for quite a while, and as a child, I used to always have these visions. I used to always see the world covered in this white filament and see energy traveling through it. And what was fascinating was when I came across the mycelium network, I realized that this is what I was seeing. And I have such a love and affinity for mushrooms and the medicine that they bring. And when you look at what the mycelium network are doing, they are transporting nutrients, they are transporting water, they're carrying messages. And what's fascinating is that the mycelium network interacts with every living thing, every animal, every plant, every tree, every human. So you can have a tree over here and it's like, I'm struggling for this nutrient. It sends the message out through the mycelium. This tree is like, I've got this, no worries, sends it back to that tree over here. So I started to think, well, if the trees can do this, why can't we? Because we're part of this mycelium network as well. And I really believe that this is where we're stepping into, that we will have more conscious awareness to be able to do this, just like the trees are doing. You know, that the mushrooms are such an intelligent network. You know,
Mhm.
it's phenomenal what mushrooms can do. And when you look at the anecdotal evidence that we have, thousands of years of anecdotal evidence about the medicinal benefits of some of these mushrooms, it's incredible.
I agree. I agree. I do mushrooms a lot. I'm doing a mix of dried mushrooms with lion's mane and other things in it. I'm drinking chaga every day. And I have to admit, I do love doing a good psilocybin mushroom.
Yeah.
I
I
find
mean,
it,
there's so much, Paul Stamets in America has really kind of pioneered getting mushrooms more into the mainstream with his research, which has been amazing. He's looked at psilocybin in the microdose, mixing it with lion's mane and reishi mushroom and some niacin, so it goes in the most, and it's also releasing the trauma from the brain, but then also creating the new networks. The lion's mane's incredible for creating those new neural pathways. And when you look at lion's mane and its effects, all of the mushrooms really, when I'm talking about mushrooms, mainly it's like reishi, chaga, lion's manes, cordyceps, turkey tails, birch polypore. These ones all, when you apply it to people with autism, ADHD, depression, OCD, anxiety, and psilocybin in there, the results are phenomenal at supporting people with no need for medication.
yeah, it's just totally amazing. Mushrooms are so cool. Now, you mentioned 7 of them in your book in particular. Are those the ones you just talked about?
Yeah, so in the book, I talk about reishi, chaga, lion's mane, turkey tails, um, liberty caps, and fly agaric, and cordyceps.
Okay, a couple of those I haven't heard of. So,
Which
yeah.
ones?
The latter ones after the turkey tail.
The fly agaric?
Yeah, never
So
heard of
fly
that.
agaric is the red and white, the classic mushroom.
Oh,
Um, that one,
okay.
the red
Yeah,
and
okay. See
white,
those all the time.
the mushroom of the of fairy tales,
Mm-hmm.
and the fly agaric mushroom. There's thousands of years again of anecdotal evidence. The Siberian shamans would take the mushroom, and it is toxic if you consume it in the wrong way or in the
Mm-hmm.
wrong dosage. Um, but taken in the right way is psychoactive, so enhances vision. So they would take it to commune with God. And what they found as well currently in Siberia, the fly agaric mushroom is used in tinctures and in like balms mixed with lard to apply on the body for pain, because it's one of the most amazing pain reliefs. So sciatica, back problems, inflammation in the knees, these kind of things, it works incredibly for. And I've explored it a lot, and unbelievable results with it.
I listened to a podcast since I've been in Florida. I don't remember the name of it, but this guy was talking about, they processed that mushroom and they did some high doses of it, and
Mm.
the stories were a little wild. So, but
Yeah, so
you're
high.
talking about more on the micro dosing, I imagine.
Exactly. Yeah, the high dose, obviously it's like, your psilocybin, it's going to induce visions. It is psychoactive, but in the lower dose, when you apply it onto the body topically, it's non-psychoactive. So you can put lots of the balm on and you're not going to start tripping, which is good, if you just want it for the
Yeah,
pain relief. But also when it's made into a tincture and it's decarboxylated, you then have it's high in something called muscimol, which is like the psilocybin, but the muscimol is very good for sleep and reducing anxiety and relaxing the body. So a lot of people microdose it before they go to sleep.
gotcha. What was the couple of the other ones you talked about after that one?
Cordyceps.
Yeah.
So cordyceps is a really interesting one. It grows high altitudes, and it was originally believed to be very parasitic. So what happens is you have, let's say, a caterpillar, and that caterpillar has this mushroom that basically breaks through its head, and the cordyceps mushroom in Chinese medicine, the cordyceps is like, if you want energy, you want vitality, you want virility, you want that real strength and purpose and oomph, cordyceps is the one to go for. And I can't remember when it was, the 90s or 80s, China won loads of the Olympic medals. And they looked into what they were doing, and they were all on cordyceps mushrooms along with a combination of other ones like reishi. So the cordyceps is really energizing for the body. But recently, when I was researching this book, I came across these studies that say actually the mushroom, it looks like what the mushroom's doing, instead of it being parasitic and killing the caterpillar, it's actually enabling this caterpillar to live at high altitudes. It's helping it adapt. And then when that caterpillar's about to die, then it explodes out. I much prefer that, being a plant-based person and not wanting to hurt, going for the ahimsa side of things. I don't really want to hurt or harm anything. So I prefer that version.
That's really fascinating. So it literally grows through the skull of the caterpillar?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they do now grow it on rice substrates and on wood, so you don't have to have that. There is most of the cordyceps on the market is not that at all, because that would be very expensive to cultivate.
Yeah.
So most of it is from, non-animal sources.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I know that the chaga has a relationship with the birch tree as well, where it's kind of working together with the birch tree, but it will take the birch tree out if it's not trimmed back, right?
Yeah, so chaga is has this slightly parasitic thing. Now it's very interesting, because when you look at things growing in nature, this is a big part of what I work with. It's like, where is the thing growing? What does it look like? What is its energy like in the environment? So if you look at nettles, for example, nettles will turn bad soil into good soil, because it's fixing nitrogen into the soil. The nettles have that pokey sting, stinging nettles hurt you, but they bring vitality and life in. So it's like, if you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling like you need some revitalization, nettles are a great thing to do. If you feel like your base, your foundation is not good, it's not filled with nutrients, nettles are amazing. So it's like, looking at how something grows can give you a good idea about how it's going to work with you. So when you look at chaga, it grows out of a tree like a parasitic growth. Yeah, a bit like a cancer.
Yeah.
Now, one of the best things for cancer is chaga. Chaga has been shown to destroy cancer cells. So, I love this way of looking at nature and then being able to figure out how it's going to work.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. And then you mentioned one after the.
No, that was the last one.
Was that the last one?
Yeah. But there were others that I was aware. I like hearing, just go through the list, because I'm uneducated on any of this. I know Jim's got a higher knowledge than I. And I'm taking notes as you're talking about these.
So reishi mushroom is incredible. So reishi was one of my favorites. I came across reishi mushroom as the first mushroom. Well, when I was a teenager in Florida, I took many magic mushrooms, so that was probably liberty caps were probably the first mushroom I came across. But in my adult life, consciously looking into health and well-being, I came across reishi mushroom first, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And that got me started on my journey into mushrooms and really delving into how they benefit us. And in my nutrition work, mushrooms are a pivotal part of the work I do with people, and I've seen so many incredible transformations. But one of the things about reishi, it's good for regulating the heart, it's good for cholesterol, it's good for anxiety, depression, it's good for the adrenals, to support the adrenals, it's good to help regulate sleep, hormones. But my favorite aspect of the reishi mushroom is the Chinese called it the soul mushroom. Because what the Chinese emperors said, and there's written evidence of this dating back 2,000 years, is that it helped people to connect into their soul and into their purpose for living. And for me, I just thought, wow, that's really special. And having seen people who have taken reishi mushroom, so my brother's a prime example. My younger brother, has run away from life. We lost our mum when I was 21. He was 3 years younger, so he was 17, quite young. And we lost our dad when I was 30, so again, quite young. So he's had quite a lot of trauma at a young age, and he just threw himself into work, alcohol. He owned 4 pubs, drinking constantly, working all hours under the sun. And he came to me about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years now, and said, I need your help. He was like, I've been to the doctors and I'm really not in a good space. Will you help me? And I was like, yeah, will you listen? And he said, yeah, I'm ready. So I was like, great. Okay. So got him onto a plant-based diet, got him all these different supplements that he was taking. And, 5-6 years on, the transformation in him is phenomenal. He hasn't drunk alcohol in all that time. He's selling his pubs and he's looking at what else he can do. We created a superfood powder together called All You Need Superfoods, and he's now an elite kettlebell trainer. And he's really looking into, he started a charity during COVID times to feed people who didn't have money and didn't have food, because he had the pubs and they were shut. So he could do that. He had that space to do that and deliver food. And I was talking to him and I said, you know what? I think the mushrooms have got into your system, into your being, and like woken you up. And he started doing qigong, and he was totally not spiritual, totally like blinkered to everything. He just thought I was totally crazy. And now he's doing all these things. He's like, oh, I sensed energy between my hands the other day. And I was like, yes, yes, this is amazing. You know, I think he's at 43 now. So it's exciting. And I said to him, I said, it's Rishi, it's connecting you into your soul's purpose. It's, you know, clearing out all the toxins. And I think that's why, you know, we live in a world where we're bombarded by toxins. It's in everything. Worse for you guys in America, you know, hopefully that will change. You know, RFK hopefully is going to, if he does what he says he's going to do, then it's going to be amazing for America, you know, cutting out these things that are in the food over there.
Well, I don't want to get off topic, but they said this red dye number 2, because I'm going to stay on the mushroom thing. But this red dye number 2, okay, now they're banning it over here, and they found out it's a carcinogen, it's a toxin, it affects all these glands that you've been already mentioned, a couple of them, and it's just poisoning everything. And we're going to have it done by 2027, really? Why not do it by March?
Yeah. It's like, you know, the fluoride in the water. It's another big one, which he said is, you know, first day he's in office, he said he's going to ban fluoride in water, because he's been looking into these things for so long. It's like, you know, aspartame, you know, that should be banned. It's a known carcinogen.
It's in everything. Even not the sugar-free stuff. Like if you go and buy Edie's ice cream, you know, and you think it's a higher end thing, but it's full of aspartame. And what is aspartame? It's like the fecal matter of like the E. coli bacteria or something like that. And it's something super gross like that.
Yeah.
And but yet it is what it is synthetically. I don't want to get onto this, or we'll go. I'd love to get onto it, but I want to hear more about this. So are reishi mushrooms, are they like a psychoactive?
No, totally non-psychoactive. You can have them every day. In fact, these mushrooms are meant to be consumed daily. In Chinese medicine, they're known as tonics. So they're safe to have, and they build up in your system. And the more they build up, the better they work. So reishi, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, turkey tails. This is actually a turkey tails sat on my desk. You can see it right there.
I used to find those in the woods all the time, growing on the side of trees. They're delicious.
Yeah, they're amazing. And the great thing is all of these mushrooms that I'm talking about, well, most of them are bracket fungus. So the bracket funguses are the hard woody mushrooms which grow on the side of trees. So they look like flying saucers. Rishis are like that, but this is birch polypore, turkey tails. And in the UK, I'm pretty sure in America as well, but I'm not 100% sure, there are no deadly bracket fungus. So the hard woody mushrooms, there's none that will kill you. Some people to some mushrooms might have a little bit of more sensitivity in their gut, and it might make none of these ones will, but some people, you know, if chicken in the woods, for example, is a bracket, but some people that can be have sensitivities to that.
So being here in South Florida, I mean, I've never went mushroom hunting, but now I'm intrigued. No, I do know people that have, and but it's just never been I wasn't very educated. And just so you know, as a reference of where I am, about 7 or 8 months ago, I was where your brother was.
Okay.
And then I didn't even know that I needed this bitch slap to get me on the way to.
Yeah.
But this podcast kind of has done that, and I'm really open to all this stuff and really feeling better about everything too. So,
brilliant.
So that's kind of where I'm at in this learning curve, probably where your brother was 3.5 years ago. I'm maybe a year into this journey, and it's such a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You get, and you really just have to pick the things that work for you and take small little steps, whether it's exercise or getting rid of the processed foods or cutting out sugar or doing a microdose of shrooms. Everything works different for other people. And I know the things that I'm honing in on. And but this is really super intriguing because I've always been interested,
Mm.
and I had no idea this conversation was going to go this way. So this is way cool. So
Amazing.
about what I was going to say, being here in South Florida, if I want to go out in the woods, what is there's obviously there's geographicness to where these things grow, but what is available here in South Florida, being that you lived here for a while? Or
I'm
weren't
not
you into it at the
100%
time?
sure. Probably turkey tails. I don't really know. You might find reishi mushroom because reishi likes warmer climates. So you might get reishi mushroom growing there.
But anything that grows on a tree, so if it's on a wooden tree and it looks like a flying saucer, it's
And
going to be.
it's that hard woody type mushroom. But what I would do is I would get it,
Mhm.
identify it, double check it. You know, with anything when we're out in nature, always double check. Even if you think it's safe, double check it because that's really important. And it's also part of the learning because you identify it and then you can connect with it on that deeper level of going, oh, this is birch polypore, great. And you can form that kind of relationship with it. But I think, you know, one of the things that's so magical about going out looking for mushrooms is we become very present. When you forage for anything, you stop thinking about the past, you stop thinking about the future, and your senses are all tuned into where you are in this moment. So you're like, what can I see? And you become, I mean, I do anyway, super excited about like the littlest things that you find. It's like, oh, look at this, oh, look at this. And that childlike joy is what our life is meant to be. We're meant to live in a space of joy. We're meant to live in a space of excitement and wonder at life, like children are. But society, life, the pressures are all designed to shut that off because what helps you live the longest? Joy. What helps you have the strongest immune system? Joy. What helps you feel connected to others? Joy. You know, so that's what's been shut down in so many people. Most people don't know what brings them joy, but you get them out foraging and finding stuff, and that wakes up.
Yeah. Um, I love hunting for morels. They don't have them down here in Florida, but we're from Michigan. And every spring we would go morel hunting. And I'd often take my wife, and it'd be really disappointing often because we wouldn't find any. And one day she's like, we're walking through these woods. She's like, we never find morels. Why do we bother? And all of a sudden we stumbled onto this patch of hundreds and hundreds of morels, and it was just miraculous. We had picked them all and put them on our counter. We counted them, and we had over 200 morels,
Wow.
just the ones we found. And there is something just special about foraging. And
Yeah.
my favorite, have you ever seen, oh shoot, what are they called? Puffballs.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Oh my gosh. The first time I stumbled across a field of puffballs or like an area of puffballs, it was like I thought somebody, like an artist, like came out and created some kind of craziness in the forest.
It did. There
Have you ever
is,
seen them?
and no, but on that point, there is an artist that created
That's
that.
very true. Very true. But
Totally. When you look at the kind of magic, so when we were doing this book, The Seven Magical Mushrooms,
mhm.
we wanted to get some pictures of the fly agaric mushroom for it with me sat with it. And so we couldn't find any, and we were searching and we're searching and we couldn't find them. And there was that thing of like, oh, come on, you know, that you've been
Yeah.
out hunting for things. Sometimes it is a bit disheartening. And I sat and I was like, please just show us this mushroom. I really want to just commune with it in person. And so it was my birthday, and a friend brought me this picture, this beautiful photograph of a fly agaric mushroom in a woods. I was like, where was this taken? And she said, oh, in West Stowe, which is like 40 minutes from here. I was like, brilliant. So the next day, my husband and I were going to go off and have a bit of an adventure. So we went to West Stowe, lots of birch trees, because that's where they like the birch tree.
Hmm.
And so we're walking around and we're looking and we're like, is that it? Is that one? Is that one? No, is that one? And we just followed this path and we were kind of being led. And then these birds were flying and it was like something out of the Celestine prophecy. You know, there was this amazing synchronicities that we were flowing. It's like, well, maybe we should follow that bird. Oh, let's follow this bird now. And we were meandering through this big woods and we saw this incredible birch tree. And my husband said, oh, that would make a great, I do a lot of women's work, sacred sexuality work for women. He said, that would make a great picture of you naked behind the tree. And I looked around, I was like, okay, yeah, well, I can do that. So hugged the tree. He got a quick picture, got my clothes back on. And then we just looked to the side and it was like, oh my God, there's fly agaric mushrooms over there. And there was literally this whole field of fly agaric mushrooms, but we didn't see all of them. We just saw one. So we went to that one and we're like, and then suddenly it was like, oh, there's another one here and there's another one here. And we were just immersed in them. And one of the things that was so amazing about that experience is that so often, with psychoactive things or with any medicine, people think they have to consume it. But actually, one of the most amazing things is just being in the presence of something. So I could sit and just be in the presence of this birch polypore or a fly agaric mushroom. I could just sit and meditate with it and actually absorb its essence. Because if everything is vibration, then we don't actually need to consume anything ultimately. And that's how, there are people who are breatharians who are living on no food at all. And I feel they're doing it because they're bringing in the vibrations. So they're nourishing their body through this vibrational medicine.
Yeah. It took me back to a story. One of the leading breatharians was busted. He was,
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he was talking about, really getting people on the breatharian bandwagon, and then somebody exposed him. He was like eating all this like crappy fast food and all this other stuff. But I don't know.
We had a friend in India. We lived in India for a few
Hmm.
years, and there was a man called Gosh who was a really holy man. He was from the Netherlands, like did hours of Tai Chi and was really connected to everything.
Hmm.
And he was a breatharian, but he did kind of 3 months at a time, and he would literally
Hmm.
just have herbal teas, and that was it. And I spent a lot of time with him, so I know he wasn't secretly snuffling food, and he was
Yeah.
really healthy and vibrant. Um, but he listened to his body, so it wasn't just I'm not eating and I'm just going to be, myopic about this. It was
Hmm.
actually his body didn't want to because he was so in tune with everything. He didn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, even, when you smell a food, I mean, you're literally consuming it. I mean,
Mm,
it's in the air. I mean, you couldn't smell it if it wasn't there. So you're
yeah.
breathing it, you're taking it in.
I mean, I have to say, I do love food, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to be a breatharian. I'm currently on a detox, so I'm only having one meal a day. But I love food, and I think that we can get so much pleasure and enjoyment from food, the right foods,
Hmm.
and it can be an incredible union. But it's also that thing of going, we don't have to rely on things either. I do a lot of talks around the country. And speak in front of a lot of people. And I used to always put rosemary on my throat so that my throat would stay open when I was talking and I wouldn't have it kind of, start coughing or anything. Um, and I didn't have my rosemary one day and I was like, oh my God, what if I start coughing? I had this fear that my throat was going to close with nerves. And so I stopped and I was backstage before going on and I just breathed and I smelt rosemary. And I was like, oh, I can smell it. And so I thought, okay, let's just take this a bit further. And I breathed really deeply and I was like, let's bring rosemary into my being. And I could feel rosemary as if I'd just put it on in my body. And I was like, wow. And then I remembered a story about a Russian athlete. And this Russian athlete, they got him to run and they monitored all his vital signs. And then they asked him to imagine he was running and tested all his vitals. And they were exactly the same, because our mind is so powerful that if we have done something, if we have that knowledge, we can bring it in. It's like the Alexander technique, muscle memory. You Alexander's technique, you lay down and they put you into the place you should be, and they do it enough times that then when you lay down, your body goes, oh, this is where I'm meant to be, and automatically does it. So we have this muscle memory that we can call on past experiences. Like if you're feeling down and you think about something really happy, you can bring that energy into the present.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like the studies they've done with like the example I can think of is like people shooting basketballs. They took three different groups, one that didn't practice, one that practiced, and one that only practiced in their minds. And they did just as good or better than the people that were practicing shooting free throws.
Mm,
Eh, Yeah, our mind's very powerful.
yeah.
And the imagination. We had some, who was talking about it? Was it Cal was talking about imagination as like the first step of um, of your spiritual journey. Like start to
Mm.
imagine things happening.
Well, and since then that I've increased my education on this, that is really just a set in intentions. I think, or manifesting. You know, if you're imagining it, I mean, really, you're just putting that positive thought. Hopefully, it's positive into your head and into your being and into your energy.
Mhm.
I like that this transition went this way, but I did have one more question on mushrooms.
Mm.
Uh, one thing I know, I go to the local CBD shop because I like the CBD pain cream, stuff like that. I buy that when I need to. And I've looked at these mushrooms and they're not cheap. Like if
No.
you go to buy lion's mane something, you're going to go and spend 75, $80. Uh, that being said, you have 7 in your book. If someone was going to get started on a limited budget, what would you recommend they start with
So
to see the biggest bang for the buck in the mushroom market?
I would say probably lion's mane. The ability that lion's mane has on cognitive function is incredible.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are struggling with brain fog. A lot of people are struggling with their cognitive function, whether it's through overwhelm, whether it's through being on the spectrum. You know, so many people now are testing and saying I've got ADHD. You know, it's like a kind of viral thing in the UK anyway, that everyone seems to have ADHD now. You know, all these adults who are um, and I think that so many people, I think with the whole spectrum thing, we're all on the spectrum, to be fair, because what is the spectrum? What
Mhm.
is it? Well, it is, we all vary, we all have different abilities, and what is the norm? Well, I don't think there is a norm really, other than what they try to conform us into. And if
At least here in America, on the spectrum is promoted by the medical community to just get you on the pharmaceutical train.
Totally, that's exactly it. But I think people do struggle with processing, with overwhelm, with all of this information. We live in a world of sensory overload now. You know, we have devices that, you know, we have inputs all the time, whether it's from 5G towers or from, you know, electromagnetic frequencies from phones, or there's stuff coming into our field all the time. And you know, we've never lived like this before. And
Mhm.
I think people are struggling to process, and lion's mane just cuts through that. It really, really is helpful. My middle son, when COVID happened and we had lockdowns quite bad in this country, he developed severe OCD and anxiety overnight. It turns out potentially they think he's autistic and he's on the spectrum. Whether he is or not, I don't really care. What I cared about was he was struggling and I needed to do something about it. He wouldn't eat food that wasn't wrapped in plastic. And being a nutritionist, that was like, oh my God, my son is now just wanting to eat crap. But I had to just give him that or he wouldn't eat. And I was like, you know what? It's better that he eats than has nothing. And he was very stubborn. He'd go 48 hours without eating and be crying in pain because he couldn't eat.
And how
Um,
old was he at the time?
he was 9,
Okay,
eight, 8 to 9.
that's a tough age to be going through something like that.
It was very, very extreme. We were in a really, really bad place, and I was like, I know, I was doing everything I could, and I thought, I know, this has come to me because I've got the tools to sort this out. So I've got the tools to support him, not to take it away from him, because someone said to me, you know, this is his dark night of the soul, his gift. You know, the reason he's here might come from this, so you can't take it from him, but you can support him in it. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hold this space and put in as much input as I can to move him through this, because I don't believe that autism is hereditary, for most genetic for most people. I think most people, it comes from poisoning, heavy metal poisoning.
Mhm.
Now my son's unvaccinated, never had any pharmaceutical medication until recently, where he had, within all this, he got his fingers chopped in the door and he had to have surgery. So he had to have antibiotics, which he'd never had. He had to have anesthetic. It was really hard for me, but I thought, you know what? He's never had any of this. He's never had Calpol. He's never had anything, Tylenol, any of it. So I there was a small opening in, he started to have this drink, and I thought I could get something in that drink and he won't know that I'm putting it in there, because the slightest thing he would sense. And I was like, if I make a really condensed mushroom tincture, really strong, I only need to put a couple of drops in and that will get through to him. So I started doing that, and within a week, his behavior started to change, just small bits. Within a
Wow.
month, he was like, Mum, can I go back to school? He hadn't been in school for a year and a half because he couldn't leave his room most of the time, just racked with anxiety about doing anything. Um, and now I've worked with over 1,500 families with this mushroom tincture, and every single one of them say within a week to a month, their children's like autistic behavior is almost gone. And now you look at my son and you would never have a clue that he was, you know, potentially on the spectrum, but he couldn't function. And now he's this incredibly bright, amazing being. And that's the power of mushrooms. And that was the mixture of reishi, chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, and turkey tails.
Wow. That is truly amazing.
That's a great story.
Yeah. I have to ask, okay, so we go to the store and like here reishi is like sold as a coffee substitute, you know, as a drink in the mornings. What about the processing? Does it matter, or what we're looking for when we go to the store to buy mushrooms?
So what's important is that it's a dual extract ideally. So what that means, so if you get, let's say that this is a reishi mushroom, it's birch polypore, any of these work in the same way. So reishi, birch polypore, turkey tails, the components in here, half of the components need to be heat extracted and the other half need to be alcohol extracted in order to get the fullness of the medicine. Now you could get this, chop it up into slices, stick it into a big pan and simmer it for 2 hours and have a tea, and that's amazing, and you're getting loads of goodness from it, but you're not getting the full picture. You could then take that tea and put that with alcohol, 40% alcohol, and put the mushroom that you've made the tea with into that alcohol and leave that for 6 weeks to extract. And then you've got a full extraction. Now, when you're buying a product, if you want the full goodness of it, you need to make sure it's a dual extract. So they've done both these processes and then they've dried it and made it into a powder so that what you're having is actually going to work. A lot of companies I've noticed now they're selling like reishi powder, and they're selling it for like £27 in this country for a kilo. I'm like, how the hell are they doing that? And then you look at it and it's like, oh, they've not extracted it. What they've done is they've got the mushroom and they've ground it up and dried it. So people are like, oh, I'm going to put this in my smoothie. Oh, I'm going to put this in my coffee. And they're getting a very, very small fraction of the benefit because it's not been extracted.
So does it say when you buy mushrooms how it was extracted, or how do you know this?
It should say dual extract on there, or heat extracted, or.
And you're saying jewel, Jewel?
Dual, as in DUAL.
Oh, DUAL, dual extract.
Yeah.
Which is the water and the alcohol extract.
Exactly. So that's ideally what you want. I've got a whole range. Unfortunately, I don't ship to America, but I've got a whole range of mushroom products. So like I've got a coffee substitute that's got no caffeine in it, and that's got other superfoods in it. I've got a lovely cacao mushroom drink and things like that. Because for me, I was finding that I didn't trust the sources of where these mushrooms were coming from. Because the other thing that we've been finding is that mushrooms coming from China, quite a lot of them are very high in heavy metals. Now, heavy metal toxicity is something that, you know, I do hair mineral analysis, and I'm seeing so much heavy metal toxicity in people now. And so you don't really want to be taking something as a health thing and it's putting heavy metals into your system. So I started to go, I don't want to do this. I want to have someone who grows my mushrooms for me, so I know where they're grown, how they're grown. You know, for me, the energetics of things are so important. So where possible, you know, organic for me is so important. I'm the trustee of a charity called the Vegan Organic Network, which is all about clean air, clean water, and clean soil. So it's like, how can we have healthy soil? How can we have this clean water? How can we have clean air? And those are principles I think everyone can agree on. We want those foundations because they're the foundations. Healthy soil is the foundation of all life. And so when you start putting pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and, you know, animal manure that's got worming pills, all of these things affect the soil, which ultimately the soil mirrors our gut. Sorry, a bit of a tangent. I'm not actually.
No, I love it. As you were saying that, you know, I was thinking about how supply and demand is going to, it's going to come into the organic community as more and more people are buying it, and these prices of this stuff's going to come down. Because if you want to go buy, and here in the States, if you want to go buy a dozen free range eggs at the grocery store, you're going to pay $8 or $9. I get them from the guy I buy some stuff from at this local sign shop. I call him in. I'm going to pick up 2 dozen farm raised eggs for $5 a piece. If you can find those partners, it's great. And especially if you are maybe growing some herbs or something like that that you can trade, that's kind of big in this community down here. But as people become more educated and realize that these GMOs and, like you said, farm communities that are just spray Roundup ready, to have a seed, a tomato plant that's Roundup ready, that you could spray Roundup on this plant and then put it in the grocery store and sell it to me tomorrow, I think is appalling. But it's so, at least over here, it's so hard to figure it out. You try hard to eat right and eat organically, grass-fed beef, chicken, stuff like that. And I know you're a vegan, but it really, really is difficult. And then when you do find it, it's double the money, and you don't even know if it's true because of the labeling requirements.
Totally. I mean, I think there's a massive thing, and that's where I think the thing of growing, as you said, finding people that who are growing organically that don't even have to have the certification, because again, that's just more money, but are growing it in that way that you trust and that you can start to build that local community of supply, because this is the other thing that's so important. I love some things that come from the other side of the world, like cacao. I absolutely love cacao, an incredible medicine for people. But where possible, I want to grow stuff myself, or we're very blessed. There's an organic grower who lives 5 miles away who delivers a veg box every week. So I know how he's growing. I know what that he's not putting anything on his crops. So I can trust that supply. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can have those trusted connections, the better it is, because we don't know what the big corporations are doing. And there is no real truth on a level of because everything's about money, isn't it? It all comes down to who can make the most money and the biggest margins.
And as adults, we need to own our own stuff. If we go to the grocery store and we buy a bag of Fritos and Fruit Loops, and you give that stuff to your kids, and so many people don't realize how much they're poisoning their children and causing some of these other things that you mentioned earlier, like kids being on the spectrum, autism, hyperactivity, ADHD, diabetes. Well, and I had made a note when we first started, we never got there,
Obesity.
but like 74% of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Now, probably 80 or 90% of that could be solved if they didn't eat out of plastic bags and frozen processed crap. But
and that's where I think the growing, a big part of what I like to do is teach kids how to grow as well, because when you teach kids how to grow stuff, they're seeing the whole what the whole process should be, growing to picking to eating, and not the processing that we live in a world, especially over there, where there's so much processing, because everyone wants that quick fix. It's instant gratification. No one has time to make food, and people don't know how to cook. That's a big part of it. No one's taught how to cook proper food, that's actually healthy, not like, okay, we're going to do cooking in school and we're going to make a pineapple upside down cake and we're going to make shit that's filled with sugar and unhealthy fats. If we can strip it back to teaching people about proper nutrition, I think that's educating the kids is the key.
Well, hopefully over here with, like you mentioned earlier, RFK Jr. kind of taking charge, that education, I really have big hopes. Jim's not so much.
But they're all politicians. I'm very skeptical.
But this is a different world as of a few days ago. I get it. Time will tell. I don't want to, let's not go there. But if RFK Jr. does, well, first of all, they have to let him in he's going to get crucified in the hearings in a couple of weeks because he's got some history. But there's no doubt that he is experienced in this world. He's been advocating for the environment and health and welfare of mainly our kids for the past 30 or 40 years. So I have tons of confidence in the guy. Whether they destroy him or not remains to be seen. But it all really starts with education. And when the government our government here has multi-billion-dollar contracts with Domino's Pizza to feed our kids lunches. And I call that factory pizza. I don't go to any chains ever. I don't go and no factory food, but it's just that the whole circle of what you said earlier is just the money thing. It's all has to stop, and hopefully it started on Monday here. So
I think, regardless of whether he gets in or not, in this lead up, his words, his communication will have started a chain reaction anyway,
true,
which is
true.
important. As you said, it's like the more we can get, people don't know what they're doing. In hospitals, they have McDonald's and Burger Kings, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not going to heal anyone. So but the system is not designed to heal anyone, because that's not what they want on a way,
Right.
because the pharmaceutical companies don't benefit from well people.
Well,
So
and over here, the farmer companies can advertise on TV. It never stops.
so we have to take our power back. We all have choice. That's the amazing things. Farmer can do whatever they want, really, but we ultimately have free will and choice whether we want to take something or we don't want to take it. So it's about going, okay, this is a big part of what I do and what I teach as well. And it's like asking your body, what one thing do you need today? What one thing do you need today? Just one thing, because it could tell you 100 things, but then you're not going to do any of them. But it's like, if you can just tune into that one thing, so it may be more water, or it may be rest, or it may be to move your body, whatever it is, and then you act on that. This is what is so important, that we start to re-listen to our body, because our body knows. It has this innate wisdom. We're part of this incredible planet. We're one with this earth. We are part of it. We're not separate. We're not walking on it. We're part of it. And so when we remember that we're part of this earth, the earth can heal anything. The earth is incredible. And so we are as well. You start to look at how the body, the liver regenerates itself every 7 years. Cells, our whole body can heal itself given the right tools. And one of those tools is listening. So we shut out the outside noise. And I start my day every morning, and I just say, what do you need today, body? And then I say, what do you need to my heart? I say, what do you need to be more open in giving and receiving love? And then I think about all the things I'm grateful for. That's how I start my day. And then I get up and I have to get kids ready and do all of that chaos. And then I go outside and I put my feet barefoot on the earth, even when it's frosty and freezing. And I just take a moment just to listen to the birds and listen to the sounds, and just to ground myself and just release anything into the earth that's no longer serving me. And just ask for the earth to hold and support me, so I can be the best person I am, so that I can shine the most I possibly can, and I can fulfill my soul's purpose.
That's a great start to any day.
Yeah.
I just got a little chill of love up my spine while you had that little diatribe. I was digging on it.
Yeah.
It's funny because we're cousins, so we've known each other our entire lives, and we're both 60 years old. And a couple weeks ago, I think it was with Dominique, and she started talking about a Kundalini experience, and Jim started talking about his experience. But leading up, and I don't want to get into that whole story because it's kind of long, but what you said was, he was mountain biking and he just started sending love out of his heart chakra. Is that a good way to think about
Yeah,
this?
I was visualizing every person I've ever met in my entire life, one at a time, and sending them love through my heart chakra. Yeah.
Nice.
So I've been doing that just in a passive way, just because I think it's going to be good for me.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say it like that from a selfish viewpoint, but if I figure, I'm driving down the road, and I remember what you told that story now. So I just started doing it, just driving down the road, or sometime if I'm just laying in bed, I just been starting doing that. I have no idea what I'm getting out of that, but I know if I do, it's going to be good.
It's not going to be bad. It's not
going
to
to
hurt
be
you.
bad at all. So
No, I think the more, that the Heart Math Institute did lots of research on our heart field. And when we focus on love and we focus on sending that love out and that gratitude, our field expands. And so our field is interacting over 6 foot. Our field goes out, sometimes more. So we're interacting with people that we aren't even kind of necessarily right up close with. And so the more we can spread our love, the more we can open our heart, it's only a good thing, because ultimately we are beautiful, loving beings. And we've been programmed to be scared of people, to be shut down, to be wary, to live in this closed space. But all that does is cause problems.
For sure. Um, we're getting close to the end of the hour. Can you hold up your book again?
Mm.
We're going to have you back. I hope you're open to that
Well,
because there's so much more I
I'd
wanted to
love
talk
to.
about. And I really wanted to get into superfoods, 7 magical mushrooms. All
7
right.
magical mushrooms. Yeah, that's it.
I love that. There is another mushroom we didn't talk about, and I want to kind of pick your brain on it. And I can't remember the name. It's you take a SCOBY, and you know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
with kombucha.
Kombucha. Thank you. I just couldn't, for some reason, remember that name, kombucha. I used to have my own SCOBYs and make my own kombucha. What are your thoughts on kombucha?
I think kombucha is great. Water kefir is another great one. They're all coming from these bacterial blobs,
Hmm.
technical term. So they're not actually
Yeah.
mushrooms, but they're bacterial blobs. And
Okay.
they ferment and create amazing health probiotic drinks. And I think they're really good. I love kombucha and water kefir.
Okay. So technically, they're not actually mushrooms. They're more of a
No,
bacteria.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I always thought that
And
was
you
a
get them in
mushroom growing
apple
in there.
cider vinegar. So if you're having
Yeah.
apple cider vinegar with the mother,
Hmm.
unpasteurized, because the pasteurization, that's part of the problem as well. We pasteurize everything to kill off the bacteria, but
Right.
actually that bacteria is medicine.
Yeah, the good bacteria
So unpasteurized apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
So if I go to the
with
grocery store,
Bragg's.
buy apple cider vinegar, because that's just one of the things I tend to do now and then because of the
Yeah.
benefits. But if it's pasteurized, I should.
No, you want the raw, unpasteurized, and it will say with the mother. And there'll be like blobs floating in it that make it look like it's bad. I've had people go, "Oh, this is bad. I bought this because you said it was good, and it's got these blobs." And I was like, "No, that's the good bit. The blobs are the good bit.
That is the good
The
stuff.
good
That's
blobs.
cool.
That's the medicine." They're not aliens about to invade you. Although with the kombucha, I had a friend who put a SCOBY in a bath. They had a big bathtub that they used for their kombucha, and the SCOBY grew the size of the bathtub. So
Whoa.
it's a little bit alien-like, on a level, but
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fast hour that
It has.
I could sit here for another hour, hour and a half and
Same.
talk to you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Well,
fun.
I'd love to come back on. It's been lovely talking with you guys.
And we'd love to have you back. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
If people want to connect more, they can go onto my website, which is juliettebryant.com. I run programs online as well, so people can connect with me. I do lots of training, my Earth Wisdom mentorship, and things like that to teach people how to really connect and understand themselves. But I think, that the most important thing, get outside, get barefoot on the ground, and look around you. Take time to observe your environment. And the earth will tell you where to go next. It has the answers if we open up and we ask. That's the key. Be receptive.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had this weird thought. Living in Florida, is there any mushrooms that grow underwater? Is that a
I've
thing?
got no idea. That's an interesting one. I've got no idea. I don't think so,
Yeah.
but you
I don't
never
either,
know.
but yeah.
Well, there's no doubt that there's a lot of undersea molds that probably have very good.
Mm-hmm.
I
Seaweed.
mean,
I'm
you've got
sure it's there. Yeah, so you got your seaweeds and
the,
other
the
stuff.
marine
So.
phytoplankton. Marine phytoplankton is one of the most incredible foods on the planet. The nutrition in it, it's such condensed nutrition, and it's got EPA and DHA. It's the perfect form of essential fat for us. Marine phytoplankton is just phenomenal. But obviously, we've got to be careful now when we get anything from the sea, because the sea's so overpolluted with heavy
True.
metal
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
microplastics.
Yeah. Like our soil.
Yeah,
Just crazy.
exactly. But you can grow. So we're growing. We make our own compost with our food waste. We've got
Nice.
raised beds. We grow so much, and it's an amazing thing. What you can do and how you can cultivate and make your own fertilizers just from nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good.
I literally went outside, but right before I came over last night,
Mm-hmm.
had some fish for dinner, and I said, "Do we got any greens or vegetables?" We don't have anything like that, and we're just out. I'm have to go shopping today, but so I literally went out into my backyard, into my little galvanized pin tray, and I cut some lettuce and that I've been growing, and I got my next batch coming around. So
Perfect.
it's so enjoyable, and I probably have 50 tomatoes out now about this
excellent.
big.
Nice.
So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be loaded up with tomatoes.
Amazing. We've got a long time to wait over here.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Are you up on like different weeds? Like
I love my weeds. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and you probably know all the health benefits, but so many people like spraying spraying poisons on their lawn to kill the weeds, and they don't even know that half the weeds are so nutritious, more than 99% of what you're getting in the grocery store is
Totally.
found in the
They
weeds, like
say,
dandelion and
yeah, dandelions and
some
nettles, amazing.
calcium in the
Chickweed.
nettle. I mean, that's just
And the magnesium and the iron, it's so many good stuff growing in the weeds. And a weed is only a plant growing in the wrong place for us.
yes.
That's
Sure.
Richard maybe coined it that way, and I think that's such a brilliant term. But the weeds are incredible, and they say that your medicine that you need is usually right on your doorstep.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
Well, last year or so, I bought a house last April, and then I started hearing about the benefits of hibiscus tea for blood pressure, and I'm like, well, I have 5 hibiscus plants right here. So I routinely, when it's flowering, I'll go grab some, throw them in my dehydrator for 2 hours, and next thing you know, I'm drinking, and that stuff's good.
It is really good.
It doesn't
good for
need
you.
anything. It's sweet. And it just tastes great. Wow, Juliette, it's been awesome hanging out with you.
Thank
I
you
learned a
so
ton.
much. Amazing. It's been lovely hanging out with you guys.
Same, for sure. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you take care.
You too.
Thanks, Juliette.
Yeah.
So if you just listen to this podcast and you appreciate the content and the work that we're doing, we would love your support. Look in the comment section of this episode. Subscribe, rate us, comment. This gets our podcast in front of other listeners. And if you noticed, we don't have advertisers. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help keep it this way. Become a supporter right now. We'd appreciate it.
I'm Jim the Yogi.
I'm Rick the BeachMan.
Peace.